Hello guys, welcome back to another video here in DDDY Adventures. No adventure for now, but we'll try to do an educational video. I recently passed the UCP exam and I just want to give out some advices on how I reviewed for this particular exam. I really wasn't able to get a super high grade on this exam, but I think passing this exam is already an achievement. So please continue watching and I hope you learn something from me and from this video. First, let's discuss what this exam is for. So UCP is certification program conducted by the trust officers of the Philippines. If you're a bank employee and you sell UITF, Unit Investment Trust Funds, you're supposed to take this exam so you'll be able to sell UITFs. For now, it's not yet mandatory, but I think sometime 2023, this is going to be required for all bank personnels or bank officers who sell UITFs. The UCP exam has 5 modules. So Module 1 is about the UITF products. Module 2 is about its regulations and operations. Module 3 is about the sales process. Module 4 is about the fundamentals of investments. And Module 5 is Code of Conduct and Ethics. So these are the 5 modules that you have to study and review. You have to pass 4 out of 5 of these modules and get at least 75% passing score in the modules that you will pass. And for the one that you will not pass, you have to get at least 60%, because if you get lower than that, I'm sorry to say, but you will not pass the exam. When you pass, the Trust Officers Association of the Philippines will give you an ID that you are already a certified UITF salesperson. So here I'll show you my folder of review material. So this is what I read for, I think, for the last 2 weeks or so prior to getting my exam. As you can see, here's my score. So Module 1, I got 17 out of 20. Module 2, I got 15 out of 20. Module 3, I got 18 over 20, same as with Module 4. And then for Module 5, I've got 16 over 20. So overall, I passed all the 5 modules and I'm so happy. Just have 2 hours to finish the whole exam. You can go back to the questions, but it feels like seeing the 2-hour timer there makes it more what do you call this, makes you more parang in a hurry because you're afraid not to finish the exam on time. And for me, I was able to run through all the questions in just about 30 to 35 minutes. So I was able to answer 1 to 100 in just 35 minutes. And then I took another 30 minutes to go back to all of the questions, as in from question number 1 to question number 100. And then finally, even though I still have an hour left, I don't want to go through another set of questions again. So I took the courage to submit my answers and to see my final score. And seeing I wasn't able to take a picture of the actual exam, I mean the grades after the exam, but all I saw was all green words that says pass, 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 pass in all the 5 modules. I immediately exited the exam after that, because I was just so relieved to be able to pass the exam in my first take. So, tip number 1, I think reading all the pages, all the slides will really be helpful. From the UCP exam review from the TOEP and the review materials from my bank, and the code of ethics and the MORB. Those are the four sets of review materials that I got, and reading everything from cover to cover really helped a lot. You don't need to memorize, you just have to understand everything. So that's my tip number 1. Read everything. Read from cover to cover. Tip number 2, during the exam, read the question and the answers carefully. So don't immediately pick an answer just because you see a keyword or something. You have to read thoroughly first the question and the answers provided to you. So it's a multiple choice type of exam. So there will be a lot of choices, but hindi siya yung choice na yun na agad yung answer. As I've said earlier, it's very tricky. So you really have to understand both the question and the answers before choosing the correct answer. Tip number 3, if you know someone who already took the exam, ask questions and ask for advices. Like this one. I made this video so that people will be able to get a glimpse of what's in a UCP exam. Because the first time I heard that I was going to take the exam, I immediately googled for a YouTube video on people who already took the exam and I found nothing. So I made this video para I can share what I've learned when I was reviewing. Let's start the review now. Let's start with Module 1, UITF products. So what are UITF ba? It's Unit Investment Trust Funds. It is an open-ended pooled trust funds in any acceptable currency. It is operated by a trust entity and is made available by participation. So UITFs are established, administered, and maintained by a trust entity subject to BSP approval. So you have to remember what is UITF ba. So in a UITF, the relationship between the investor and the fund manager is called trustor and trustee. So trustor is the investor and trustee is the one managing the funds for the benefit of the trustor. So the trustee holds the legal title to the properties for the benefit of the beneficiary. So the beneficiary is the trustor. He has legal ownership, yung trustee. But the benefit is for the trustor. You have to remember that trust funds are not public borrowing, so it is not a deposit product. So you always have to tell your clients that it is not covered by PDIC. So ROI is not guaranteed, yields and potential yields are not guaranteed. You cannot say indicative rates. Income will fluctuate depending on market conditions, and also losses may arise, and it's for the risk of the trustor. So that's very important. You have to discuss it with your clients before allowing them to invest in UITF. So how does UITF work? So basically, yung UITF, we give our money as investors to fund managers or investment managers. And then these fund managers will be the one to invest our money as a pooled fund or as a whole in a portfolio. So they manage our funds and we basically trust them with our money. Yun. So, what are the types of UITFs? We have money market funds. These are purely fixed income with weighted average duration of less than 1 year lang. So, this is conservative. So, pwede lang siya i-invest sa outlets na walang risk or walang price risk, such as savings or deposits. So, yung moderate kinds of money market funds, it can be invested in bonds provided that it should also be less than 1 year. So, for the next one naman, yung bond funds, if your client wants to invest in a longer term na kinds of funds or mas gusto niya na mas medyo a little risky to get a little higher na returns, so bond funds naman tayo. So there are 3 kinds of bond funds. So intermediate, medium term, and long term. So yung intermediate funds, 1 to 3 years yun. Yung medium term fund, medium term bond fund, yun yung 3 to 5 years. And then we also have the long term bond fund, which is more than 5 years. And then we also have the balance funds. It's a combination of cash, fixed income, and equity. So higher na yung risk, higher na yung returns na pwede nating makuha. Also, another type is the equity fund. So, exposure niya talaga, as the name calls it, is more on equities or yung mga stocks talaga. And then, we have special kind of UITF, yung feeder funds and fund of funds. So, depende to kung saan invest. So, pag at least 90% of its total assets must be invested, yung feeder fund, in a single collective investment scheme. So, isang target fund lang. Yung fund of funds naman, also at least 90% of its assets, but more than one collective investment scheme. So, always remember yung duration ng different kinds of UITF. So, to refresh, yung money market, maximum is 1 year. Yung mga intermediate term bond fund is maximum of 3 years. Medium term bond fund, maximum of 5 years. Long term bond fund, more than 5 years. So, sa module 2, yung regulations and operation naman, basically, each UITF should have a declaration of trust. It's a written plan rule in the form of a trust agreement. So, nakalagay dito yung mga yung title or product name ng UITF na fund, and then yung its investment objectives and policies, investment powers of trustee, and the terms and conditions governing the admission or redemption of units of participations, and also the unitized NAVPU valuation methodology. It also has the trustee liability clause, and the fees and allowable charges, and the basis to terminate the plan. So, all of this should be approved by the trust entity's board of directors, and a copy also should be submitted to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, BSP, for their review. Valuation naman ng UITF, it should be mark to market instead of accrued. Yung accrued kasi it was used before sa mga common trust funds, but now binago nila kasi mark to market valuation is better. We'll discuss that a little later. One thing you should remember also is the exposure limit. It should not exceed 15% of the market value of the UITF fund. So, kung hindi maiwasan and the limit is breached due to mark-to-market valuation, the trustee or the fund manager is given 30 days to correct the breach para maibaba niya ulit, maximum na siya ulit ng 15% of the market value. So, remember that. Also, we have to know where UITF is allowed to be invested. So, syempre sa bank deposits, kasi for the more conservative ones, dyan, bank deposits, and then it can also be invested in exchange-listed securities or securities guaranteed by the Philippine government, such as mga RTBs, mga ganyan. Tapos, marketable securities traded in an organized exchange, loans traded in an organized market, or other tradable investment outlets that BSP may allow. So, you have to know kung saan pwedeng i-invest yung mga UITF. So, also, UITFs are exempt from the following statutory limits applicable to trust funds in general. So, reserve requirements, no need. Single borrower's limit, except yung exposure nga na 15%, and then DOS ceilings. But UITFs are taxable. I also remembered there was a question about the publishing of rates. So, where can we see that? So, yung NAVPO, it can be seen daily kasi dapat NAVPO is computed daily eh. So, it can be seen on the website daily. So, also, the trust entity should publish at least weekly NAVPOs. So, tapos, they also need to make available historical NAVPOs, declaration of trust, and other disclosure documents via their own website, so the bank's website or the TOAP's website. So, kailangan nakapublish lahat about the UITF. Very transparent dapat lahat. So, meron din tayong multi-class UITF. So, since different classes siya, pwedeng mag-invest dun sa fund na yon, there will be different level of trustee fees and expenses as well. So, for example, si unit class A, minimum investment niya is higher. So, lesser yung trust fee niya. But there will be another unit class that will have a lower minimum investment, but the trustee fee could be a little bit higher also. So, depending on the minimum investment, their trustee fees will differ also. So, there is also another kind of UITF, the unit paying UITF. So, these are income paying UITFs naman. So, its goal is to provide a regular stream of income to participating investors. So, it's a non-guaranteed stream of additional income, but it's also a potential for capital appreciation. So, instead of paying cash dividends outright, the fund shall give out additional units to participating investors on a pro rata basis. So, they have an X date set on the declaration of trust. So, on this X date, so if you invest prior to the X date, so kasama pa yung unit dividend na maa-accrue on your fund. Pero kung after na ng X date, so wala nang unit dividend na makukuha. So, for the Module 3, the UITF sales process, so you have to know what is net asset value. So, net asset value or NAV is a summation of the market value of each investment less fees, taxes, and other qualified expenses. So all funds are marked to market on a daily basis. So remember that. On a daily basis, dapat yung marking to market natin. Kaya may NAV po tayo every end of day. Kasi kailangan yun. So, what is mark to market ba? It is the act of assigning a value to a position held in a tradable financial instrument based on the current market price for that instrument. So, bakit mark to market yung ginagamit natin? Because it reflects the true value of the assets. It's less problematic when massive redemptions happen, and this allows you to participate in full potential of the market. So that's better than the accrual valuation method which was used before sa common trust fund nga. So what is NAV po naman? It is the basis for admission and redemption of participation. So it determines the beneficial interest of each participation unit. So parang ito yung price ng unit na nakukuha natin when we invest in UITF. So how do we get this? So you divide the net asset value over the total outstanding number of units in that particular fund. So we compare the daily net asset value of the funds against a benchmark. So pag higher siya sa benchmark, it means that the funds are performing well. But if it's lower than the benchmark, so it means that it's not good or it's underperforming. So when we sell UITF, usually the clients will ask, ano ba yung ROI, or how do we compute for the return of investment of this particular fund. So we will be able to give that to client, yung historical performance niya via computing the year-on-year or the year-to-date ROI. So what is year-on-year? Year-on-year is the current return computed compared to the same period last year. So kunyari, today is September 25th. So you have to compute, you have to get the NAV po last year on the same date, September 25 din. So ililess mo yung NAV po this year minus NAV po on the exact date last year, and then divide it on the NAV po from last year. So that's how you get the ROI for year-on-year. For the YTD, the year-to-date naman, so you have to compare it on the NAV po on the last last date of the year. So yung last na year-end figure naman. So kunyari, ngayon, September 25, 2021, minus December 29, 2020 na NAV po over December 29 na NAV po. So that's how you get it. So review nyo yung mga computation of ROI. Meron yun dun sa test ko, ha. Kasi I know that parang merong mga test A, test B yan eh. So better be sure lang. So review that. It's easy naman eh. You just have to understand the concept. You don't have to really memorize it naman. So for the sales process, you also have to understand the different kinds of clients. So yun nga, conservative, moderate, aggressive. You have to know their experiences on investing, also their time, yung horizon na pwede nilang iiwan lang yung funds, yung liquidity, kailangan na ba nila yung funds anytime soon or they can leave it at that kasi extra money lang naman talaga. So you have to classify your clients depending on their needs. So that's very important. As I've mentioned, dun sa onboarding ng clients. If your client's profile is not suitable to invest in aggressive funds, but your client wants to, you just have to let him sign a CSA waiver. But you have to remember, kahit nag-instruct na yung client sa inyo, kunyari over the phone, na okay, I want to invest in equity fund today, but I cannot sign the waiver yet because I cannot go to the bank. You cannot invest yet. You have to tell your client that he needs to sign the waiver first before investing his funds to the equity fund, kasi to protect yourself also and to protect the client. So, review nyo rin yung risk profiling questions dun sa CSA to better understand paano ba mag-profile talaga ng client. Usually, when the client answers, minsan kala natin inconsistent yung answer niya, but there are no such thing as inconsistent answers. Kasi pwedeng gusto niya mag-invest in long term pero kailangan din niya yung pera. So, pwedeng ganon, but you just have to tell your client to answer the questions truthfully kung ano ba talaga. So, kahit medyo inconsistent yung answers niya, kung yun naman talaga yung parang profile niya, wala tayong magagawa. So, if there are multiple account holders, like for example, a joint account, usually only one per account is being profiled. So, kung sino yung primary investor, siya yung pirino-profile natin. So, kung ano yung profile niya, yun yung susundin natin. We also have to remember and determine the maximum risk or volatility that our client can safely absorb. So, ano ba yung capacity niya? Ano ba yung risk na kaya niyang i-take? So, kung aggressive siya, kaya ba niya na mawala yung money niya? Or at least on a paper loss, ha? Or yung hindi ba siya magpapanik kapag bumababayan na yung NAV po niya? Versus dun sa NAV po nung nag-invest siya. So, yung mga ganon, very important talaga yon. So, very important na i-profile natin mabuti yung mga clients. Kasi, para hindi tayo magsisihan in the future. When we understand the client's profile na kasi, we will be able to tell the client ano yung magandang UITF product na nagmamatch dun sa profile niya. So, kung hindi naman, ang profile niya is, kunyari, moderate lang siya, he needs the funds in about 3 to 5 years. So, we can suggest yung mga funds na pwede as sa mga moderate na clients. So, what are the factors that determine the suitability of each type of UITF? Yun nga, so, first one is yung size or capability to invest. Ano ba yung financial position ng client mo? So, yung horizon naman is when will the client need the money back? Yung objective niya. So, is it for capital preservation, capital appreciation? So, depende din. So, yung risk-return profile niya. What is the client's ability to take risk? So, kasi yung risk-reward rule nga natin, di ba? So, the higher the risk, the higher the returns. The lower the risk, the lower the returns. And also, the client's experience. So, ano na ba yung experiences ng clients when it comes to investing? Is he a new investor? Or is he a seasoned investor? Marami na ba siyang napag-investan na iba-ibang klase ng ng investment products. So, depende. So, these are the factors that we need to assess. We also have to discuss the different types of risk in investing in UITF. So, first on the list is the market or price risk. So, ito yung volatility ng price ng portfolio or investment na papasukan natin. And then, yung interest rate risk. So, as we all know, interest rates go up and down. So, tapos yung liquidity risk. So, yung cash flow. The reinvestment risk. So, after ba ng maturity, mataas pa rin ba yung rate? So, yun. So, yung credit risk, if the company will be able to pay us back ba when we lend them our money. So, ito yung sa mga fixed income na securities. Tapos, yung sa foreign exchange risk, so, nagfa-fluctuate yung exchange rate natin. And then, the country risk. So, depending on the country's economy, kung okay ba or not. So, these risks are included in the risk disclosure statement. So, the client also has to sign that. So, it's a document wherein the client attests that the risks of the investment were explained by the marketing officer or the trust officer, and that the client fully understands those risks. And the client wholeheartedly accepts those risks and is ready for its consequences. So, this one is very important kasi you have to thoroughly explain ano yung mga possible risk na pwede mangyari. So, again, marketing no-no during the sales process, we cannot tell the client that the UITF is guaranteed or it's covered by PDIC. So, we also have to let the client know that UITF is not a deposit product but a trust product. So, we cannot say that we guarantee yung rates na makukuha ng clients, but we can only say that the historical performances of each UITF is like this or like that. So, pero it does not guarantee, the past performances does not guarantee the future performance also of the UITF. So, if the trust entity plans to terminate the whole UITF account, they need to give out the notice of termination to all of the participants, and they also have to get a board approval and a BSP approval. Let's head on to Module 4, the fundamentals of investment. So, what is an investment? So, investment is a commitment of a sum of money for a period of time to compensate for time, inflation, or risk or uncertainty. So, what are the kinds of investment that we can invest to? So, ito yung cash. So, cash is a legal tender that can be used in exchange of goods and services or debt. So, we also have fixed income securities or debt instruments. So, it can be either a company or government borrowing that is more than 1 year. So, usually yung bonds fall under this category. So, yung mga government securities, yung mga corporate bonds, foreign bonds, all falls into fixed income securities. So, we also have yung equities or stocks. So, it represents ownership in a corporation through shares of stock. So, we have two kinds of shares, yung common shares at saka yung preferred shares. sa common shares, owners share in success when company profits, but owners are at risk if company falters. Sa preferred shares naman, so dividend payment is guaranteed. But dividends don't increase when the company prospers. So kung ano lang yung napag-usapan na dividend na ibibigay ng company, yun lang yung makukuha when you are a holder of preferred share. So another kind of asset class is yung real estate naman. So yung mga land, buildings, mga ganyan, and falls under this. And then we have other alternative assets, yung mga jewelry, art, hedge funds, commodities, yung mga venture capital, yan. So, the risk-reward rule also applies to this. So, the lower the risk, the returns might be lower, but the higher the risk, the returns may also be higher. So, read on about yung mga various asset classes. Those are important also. And then, we'll tackle also the investment sales principle. There are also different kinds. So, what are these? Yung diversification, cost averaging, goals-based investing, horizon matching, asset or portfolio allocation, and life cycle based investing. So yung diversification is the process of mixing a variety of investments to lower the risk of the portfolio. So if it's more diversified, you'll have a better risk management. So pag less diversified kasi, parang you're putting all your eggs in one basket. So, pag naging risky yung basket na yon, all of the eggs will be put in great risk. But if you put different, your eggs on different baskets, so, pwedeng yung isa higher yung risk, pwedeng isa lower yung risk. So, parang, since diversified yon, yung risk mo, mamamanage din better. So, yung cost averaging naman is basically investing in one kind of product in different periods of time. So, instead of investing, kunyari, you have 100,000, instead of investing in one go, you divide it into 5. So, you invest 20,000 each on 5 different periods. So, that way, iba-iba yung prices na makukuha mo. Kasi you'll never know naman when is the best time to invest. When is it the right time to invest? When is the price lower? So, you'll never know that. So, para ma-manage lang din, so you do cost averaging. You invest in different periods of time. Yung goals-based investing naman, it more on kung ano yung life goals mo. Kunyari, you're young right now, you want in 20 years time, this investment will be for my future house, or I want to buy a house for my parents, ganyan. So, ano ba yung life goals mo? O kaya, you have a 3-year-old kid now, in 15 years time, you'll have an 18-year-old. So, 18-year-old, you want most probably college education of your child. So yun yung goals-based investing. Yung horizon matching naman is when will you be needing the cash? So is it anytime next month? Is it after 3 years, after 5 years, or is it for 20 years from now? So depending on your time horizon, you'll have to check also yung volatility ng funds na pag-iinvestan mo. So, we also have the life cycle based investing. So, early career stage, mid to late career stage, or the retirement stage. So, depending on this stage, kunyari, bata ka pa ngayon, so ngayon wala ka masyadong expenses, you live with your parents, so you don't have to pay for mga rent or anything. So all your salary can be put into an investment of your choice, 'di ba? So kung hindi mo pa naman kailangan yung money mo now, you can invest it in a more risky or longer term na investment. We're down to our last module, the Code of Conduct and Ethics. It's about 5 to 6 pages long lang. So if you have time, read it a few times para lang ma-understand nyo what it's all about. And let's have some discussion. So why do we need to have why is it important to have ethics in an organization? So ethics are the principles and values an individual uses to govern his activities and decisions. So it's a set of principles that guide the organization in its programs, policies, and decisions for the business. So the ethical philosophy an organization uses to conduct business can affect the reputation, productivity, and bottom line of the business. So why do we have a code of ethics? Basically, this parang is a guide eh. So, what to do and what not to do, parang ganun. Since we are in a bank business or field, so the integrity talaga is very important. The integrity of the bank personnel is really important kasi the people are trusting their money to us. So, we really have to exude that integrity, the values, and the principles dapat innate sa atin as bankers or as bank personnels. So if the people will see that we practice a certain integrity in our daily operations, not just in the bank but in our life as well, they will be more than willing to trust us with their investments. But with this, syempre, meron din tinatawag na ethical dilemma. So it's a complex situation that involves an apparent mental conflict between moral imperatives in which to obey one would result in transgressing another. So sometimes we are at a crossroad, feeling natin tama naman, but we have to decide which one is more tama. So for this module, we also have to read about the Manual of Regulations from BSP also. Parang ilang page lang din yun. Maliit yung sulat pero tiyagain yung basahin kasi para lang alam nyo saan yung pinanggagalingan ng regulations nung sa BSP. Let's discuss about the best practices. So there are 4. Best execution, personal investment policy, Chinese wall, confidentiality, and materiality of information. So for the first one, the best execution, what does this mean? So this ensures that the clients always gets the best deal at all times. So we can prevent conflicts of interest by always showing 2 competitive bids from counterparty. So hindi pwedeng isa lang yung wala tayong pagpipilian. Kailangan laging may dalawang pagpipilian on where to invest the product or where to invest the investment of the investor. Kasi to make sure na that's really the best deal kasi na-compare mo. So, yung pangalawa is the Chinese wall. So, Chinese wall ensures the protection of the institution when carrying out different functions and responsibilities across different investment management activities. So, this one naman, this prevents a single department from controlling the whole process. So, yes, there is a trust department, pero there are different units. So, hindi pwedeng yung unit na nag-check sila din yung magsasabi kung saan mo i-invest. So, that's what you call the Chinese wall. So, there are clear and separate functions of each of the units. So, the third one is the personal investment policies. This ensures that the interests of the clients are protected against trading of investments for personal gains of trust personnel. So basically, yung personnel, yung kunyari fund manager na humahawak ng portfolio mo or ng investment mo, so hindi siya pwedeng mag-invest lang kung saan siya lang yung mag-gain. Kumbaga, pwede, but it has to be on paper. It has to be disclosed. Hindi pwede yung parang secret lang. Kailangan disclose siya. So, for the fourth one, yung confidentiality and materiality of information, since we have a lot of confidential information with us, we have to protect those information. So, we can't just leave yung mga information na yun ng mga clients lying around. We have to ensure the safekeeping of confidential information para yung privacy din ng mga clients natin. So, to add on the best practices, we also have fair dealing. So, what is fair dealing? This is to ensure that clients and counterparties, regardless of size and relationship with the trust entity with us, must be treated equally and equitably. This ends our video for today. I hope you learned a thing or two from this video. Syempre, you still have to read everything and understand the review materials. Don't just rely on this video because this is just based from my personal experience. The things I said are only from my own personal understanding of the review materials. I hope you all pass your exams, and if you have other questions or any clarifications, I might be able to answer it, or I might be able to discuss it with you. Just leave a comment down below and I'll try to reach you as soon as I can. Good luck to you, and I hope you get a really good grade in your exam if you're taking one soon. Thank you again for watching and stay safe. Bye!